Oh, it's for all over there.
Could be.
Okay.
Town meeting.
Okay.
Okay. I have the back end of your. Right.
Right, they're gonna go over here.
Yeah, you all want to move that way.
I missed that part.
Yeah.
I can go over there too if you're gonna be running all this.
Yeah, I got it for you.
Okay.
Okay. Done.
We on?
Yes, I'm pulling it over now.
So we can see each other. Oh, okay.
I think if we could just, I am Anthony Edwards, I'm the communications liaison for the Big Speak on behalf of the San Juan County. We have some of our officials today. And then this is up in a minute. But before we get started, let's have just the EPA and contractors just introduce themselves real quick. Then we'll go to here, and then we'll go ahead and let people on the who are attending remotely introduce themselves.
Okay, I'm Joy Jenkins, and I'm with the EPA. I'm the lead project manager for the new Silverton site. And should we go EPA first and then HCL?
Sure. The ladies and
the ladies. Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm Meg Broughton. I've met most of you at this point, except for your dad. I'm the EPA community involvement coordinator for the site.
And I think I know most of you as well. My name is Athena Jones. I'm the remedial project manager on the site, and while Joy is the team lead, I'll be leading the repository project. And we can go Ryan next.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Sisk. I'm a project engineer for the repository for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Great. So my name is Dave Briscoe. I'm the deputy project manager for hydrogeological and the prime contractor with the will be forming the work hours.
And I'm Mark Blanchard. I'm with HGO. I'm the based in Denver, Golden, actually. I'm the office manager for the HGO office there.
I'm Evan Workman. I'm the project manager with ER, and we're subcontracted under HGO.
I'm Byron Hartman, so I'll be the site superintendent, and I'll see you when you guys probably yell at.
I'm sorry, who are you with?
It's environmental restoration.
Yeah, you guys are out.
Great. I'm Shane. Thank you so much for coming today. Shane Furman, I'm the mayor of Silverton.
I'm Jordan Bierman. I'm one of the town trustees, also high school teacher.
My name is Dana Krinker. I'm a town trustee and I also work for County Public Health.
I'm Tyler George. I'm town trustee. I'm also the director of the ambulance. I'm here strictly as a town trustee today, but I'm on call. That's why I'm wearing this. So if I get a page, I will be popping up and leaving.
Well, coming to me. Just been an interesting party. Who would you give me San Juan County Administrator?
Jim Harper, local business owner and town trustee.
Anthony Edwards. John Sykes, Silverton Public Works.
It's your turn, staff.
Not just hire San Juan County Commissioners.
Thanks. And then Austin, Gloria, and then Tom, could you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, Austin Lashley, San Juan County Commissioner, zooming in. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right.
Gloria?
Hi, Gloria Koshberger, Town Administrator. I think I met some of you guys last time, but just zooming in, thanks.
Huh?
Me? Tom Shalaki.
Thanks, Tom. Joy, I don't know if you just want to describe just briefly or just generally about the repository and what's going on, and then any questions happening, and you can bring us up to date of the logistics are, we had a meeting about, yes, a little less than a month ago, and where we are right now, and go from there.
Yeah, and what we have today too, if folks want to see it, we do have about 10 slides that we're planning to give at the public availability session tonight. And Athena will be giving a presentation. We could also do that here, or at least flip through those slides if that's useful. But generally, I'll let Athena take the lead on talking about what we're doing. But yeah, we're here to try and share that information with you today, and then also with the public this afternoon to let them know this evening what they're going to see when construction will start and when they'll see activities going on with the repository construction. But I'm unsure like what everybody's familiarity is already with our plans. I know some of you have been more involved in previous conversations, and some of you may not have. So would it be helpful to see those slides at all? Would that be a good starting point?
I know, yeah, it's not going to be long.
Yeah, we'll just bring
the context.
Yeah, it'll be a nice visual for everyone to, you know, take a look at. And
yeah, you want to say that?
I'll just do it.
Okay. Nate's running tech support tonight.
Yes.
And we have shared the screen with the public.
Great.
Go back. Oh.
There's a lot of extra slides in case we have specific questions. So there's visuals.
Don't be scared.
For a lot of different questions, but keeping it to the level of what to expect during the summer from what we know now in our planning process. The next 10 slides are going to be about that. So yeah, let's go to the next slide if you don't mind. Just to refresh folks, I like to keep this in here so you understand why we need to do this on the site. The purpose of the Bonita Peak Repository, or the BTR, is the permanent resting ground for treatment-derived sludge and other mine waste that are coming from areas in the site, which is kind of why I included that map on the right-hand side, an image of the Kohler sludge pond, and then of course the drying beds at Gladstone. So this is our main source of waste right now, Gladstone Interim Water Treatment Plant, but the repository is really going to be serving as a final resting place for waste throughout the site, over 300,000 yards of it. Next slide, please. For those of you who aren't familiar with where it is, I will say though, obviously Silverton, TP4. This picture appears to be taken on the slope of maybe TP2, and I guess that's 3. So yes, most of the action is going to be happening here. Okay.
TPB.
Tailings impoundment, or tailings pond. You guys familiar with that? Yes. I figured. Okay, next slide. All right. And then this included the main slide from, you know, this is the overall design drawing of what's going to be happening there this year. You may have seen some images of stacked sludge. But this year we're just doing phase 1, which includes the stage 1 repository cell. This is an impoundment style cell where we're going to be putting non-stackable waste and just filling it up to the top of the berms. Eventually, that's happening in out years, but we're going to construct the facility for it this year. That includes access roads, berms for the other facilities, a paved area for staging and constructability for those stacking stages later on in the game, a leachate pond for collecting potentially contaminated water from the site, an avalanche block wall for preventing impacts from what we found to be a 500-year chute here. I mean, doesn't look like one because it's a 500-year chute, but that's what we found working with Silverton Avalanche School and other folks in the area. So that's just an overview of what's going to happen on top. There's also going to be improvements to the stormwater system on top and around the area. So there will be activities happening somewhat off of the top of this, but you know, most of the action up here. Next slide. I'm not going to go through exactly all of this. You just heard from HGL, CDM's not here, but they did the design and they're going to be on board this summer to help us out in case we need to change anything or have questions, which is coming up already. So we're communicating with the folks who made the design. We have folks in the Army Corps here helping us with the contract and also with oversight this season. I just met with Chip Kossow, who's got like 30 years experience in construction, who's going to be helping with oversight. He'll be out here for the first couple of weeks And we'll be out here as well. CDPHE remains involved as well because they take over these kind of projects when the work is done. So that's all I wanted to say here. Great. So then we get into kind of some of the impacts that you may experience, what to expect this summer. This picture was taken from the wellness trail. So I think, you know, just keeping in the spirit of what you're going to be seeing, you'll have a great view if you do take a hike of activities day to day. Throughout the season, we're going to maintain close coordination with you all through county and city points of contact. We've kind of established a few folks who will be your communication points: Anthony, John, Jim Donovan, he's not in here, but there are folks we meet with on a regular basis who will be kind of your liaisons to us. And then anytime that we need to meet again, we can. Okay, more like physical things that you may see. We have to replace a couple of culverts on County Road 2 at some point later in the season. There'll be partial road closures there. You'll see folks controlling traffic and probably one-way traffic during that 6-day work week. So there will be people probably Monday through Saturday most of the time. You probably won't experience any noise disturbances from this, but just a heads up, you'll be seeing people through those days. We're setting up air monitoring in a couple weeks here to make sure that dust isn't migrating off of the site. EPA is going to be doing that through ERT. These guys are going to get notifications when our devices show any kind of exceedances, and they're planning to control dust with water as necessary. They're also going to be monitoring workers with body monitors, especially early in the project, to see what the dust levels are going to be during certain activities. The last bullet, I want to tell you anything that we say about schedule. If you've ever done a project,
They're all nothing.
Yeah, I know, right? I didn't even need to say this, like, never mind. If you've ever done any projects, especially, you know, relating to construction, home improvement, you know that things get pushed out, and there are things that depend on other things to be completed before they can get started. So we want to be as transparent with you guys as possible about schedule, but bear in mind that things definitely can get delayed. We're trying to get it done in 1 year, but we'll see. If it's as wet and rainy as last year, I don't know, you guys. We're gonna try. You can go to the next one. These are the folks you're gonna see out there, right? You're gonna see people starting maybe at the end of May in, you know, vests, boots, hard hats, things like that, starting to mobilize some of the yellow iron, you know, your bulldozers, your you know, borrow source, what is it, the screeners. You'll start to see a lot of equipment being mobilized toward the end of the month and early June. And then as needed, you'll see folks controlling traffic in the area, which will be coordinating with the county up on County Road 2. And then of course, trucks hauling material and equipment through Silverton as needed. So those are just some things to expect this year. I think the next slide is, yeah, I've already basically told you guys this stuff. Late May, early June is when you're going to start to see these things. But I wanted to highlight that we're getting air monitoring and some other site setup stuff done before we start grading and excavating and other heavier work on site. So that's kind of our trajectory right now. And it may change, but I'm hoping it'll be this.
And is that the air monitoring equipment in that picture?
Yeah, this is ERT. That's Bill and Henry. Yeah. Yep. We did this last year just to get it all set up. Believe it or not, the altitude impacts some of the equipment. So they figured that all out last year. That was good to know. And what's the next one? Is the next one just contact information? Oh no, continuing community involvement. Great. So we put out a design fact sheet that you've probably seen. It's like 5 pages long, but we're working also on a construction fact sheet, which will go into a little bit more detail, but probably not a whole lot on what to expect in construction. We have our regular planning group meetings on a monthly basis and community advisory group meetings. And we'll be providing monthly newsletter updates to folks as a minimum about what's going on, the progress, and anything else you might be interested in. The next one is contact information. So, we do have a communication SOP, which has a couple of like key people that are best to communicate with. We're definitely,
Yeah, you
you
can
know,
text
you can,
anytime,
anytime.
directly, or Anthony, or basically it will come through Athena and I in some way, shape or form, but you know, don't feel like you can't just pick up the phone and call us at any time with good or bad things to say.
Yeah, I think in lieu of like having all the answers right now, we want to be available throughout the season. So yeah, please take our numbers down, if you don't already have them. And I think that's all I had on here. So depending on if there's any questions that would lead to my extra slides, we'll go into them, or else we'll just.
Questions? Comments? Go ahead.
I'm curious what type of conversations have been had about minimizing the traffic impacts on the community. So, like, for example, planning around event weekends like Iron Horse and Hard Rock 100 and July 4th week, and then also understanding that July and August are super busy here relative to our normal busyness, and will there be efforts to try and see those trucks moving during non-train hours or other things like that, so that the actual impact the community feels will be minimized?
Absolutely, I can speak to that a little bit. We've been working with Anthony pretty intensely on this, and one of the things that we heard about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, was to avoid the hours of 11 to 3, if at all possible. Obviously, that's, you know, we can take all the information from you and just try our best to see if that fits with what we can do. But that would mean like earlier in the morning, starting with any kind of trucks coming through town. Also, I guess some new information is we're really trying to figure out if there's any ways that we can use material that's more local rather than bringing material through town. And that really just requires us to be out there and do some ground truthing and figure out what is out there that we can use and who in the area might have materials that we can use, just so we don't have to bring stuff down Green Street. So it's something that's definitely on our radar, you know, obviously to try to minimize the disruptions. And even now, like we see, you know, the tourists coming through and like no one's paying attention. And so it could be like, you know, a safety concern also that we're aware of, like if trucks are coming through, especially during those like train drop off times, like people are watching their phones and not paying attention. So that's just going to lead to frustration, I think, on everyone's part. So we're well aware of that. But yeah, just trying to avoid those core hours of 11 to 3, and then holidays. I know that we're trying not to work on holidays, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Just gotta speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. And then any kind of festivals or anything like that, you could just let us know. If there's, I know there's a couple of like bigger concerts happening out of the Roadhouse. I don't like we can also try to plan around those as well, but
well, that feel like a nighttime thing, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys have had a lot of time to give consideration to the, you know, whole 11 to 3 and certain holiday weekends. We may still need to provide you with that concrete list of days where things are happening in town.
Yeah, I think we're aware of the major holidays, of course, but maybe not as aware of some of the specific events. So anything that you can funnel through them, they'll show us and we'll work to adjust accordingly.
Similarly, assuming that we can't find a bunch of that fill material locally, will most of those trucks be coming from the south or the north? And is there a way to plan around busy times to see lots of like slower truck traffic on 550 leading to and from Silverton? Because that also can be quite detrimental to, you know, someone takes an extra hour to get here, they have an hour less to spend in town and spend money in town. It's like
that. So I guess I'll start by saying we're working with Rocky Mountain Aggregate out of Montrose. If we can, and we are working with them to see if they can supply us from other directions, if you will. But if that doesn't work out, yeah, they would be coming from that direction from Montrose. And we have to work with them and respect their workers' hours too. We can't ask them to be hauling at 4:30 in the morning. But you know, we understand that concern. We're trying to kind of work with our suppliers and see what strategies we can employ to at least manage that best supply.
I'm definitely not an expert in this, but it just would seem Like, I mean, I don't think the hours are terribly important, but more kind of like packing them all together. So if you have 10 trucks going in one day instead of one truck going every 10 days, or every day for 10 days, it seems like that would probably be less.
We've talked about that sort of in the beginning, the batching of trucks, and I think it's really, it depends on what is available to come out of Montrose to all be together and then, you know, come as a convoy. It's, I don't know.
It's a great idea in theory.
What'd you say?
It's a great idea in theory.
Right.
Unfortunately, when you're running trucks like that, they have other jobs as well. So these trucks might be committed to other things. The big thing here is that we're not quite sure how much material we're gonna have to bring on site. So, you know, that's kind of the working and trying to we're working with the market and the local contractors to really produce that stuff in this area so we don't have to bring trucks. I'd like ready to go. And we're definitely looking at minimizing between those peak hours. But you know, sometimes the truck might even be available to that contractor at that time, bring that material through. So I'm not saying it won't happen, but it'll definitely be, I think, less than you expected.
I just really appreciate you guys being conscientious about that. I think we all expect there to be some impacts, but if there's thoughtfulness to it, I think we'll all be super happy.
And perhaps it's a very simple thing we can ask them to pull off at certain points on the pass. I know I've been behind folks who don't do that, and I'm not patient.
She was on my butt last night.
I was.
Was she high beaming you?
No. I don't do that because you never know who's gonna have a gun, but I mean, I definitely, you know, I appreciate folks who allow faster moving traffic. So just taking some notes to get back to you on.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? It's like that. I mean, we're here.
Like this truck from and what the workers are willing to do, I guess. You know, I mean, that makes sense. When it comes down to it, it's not really the trucks we're talking about, it's the truck drivers, right? So gotta work with them and what they're capable and willing to do.
They may want to come early in the morning so they're not stuck in.
That may be a benefit to them.
Yeah.
So traffic gets pretty heavy.
You know, it can take 3 hours to get from Montrose to here. 10, 11 a.m. Yeah. If you get behind the wrong people, where you're looking slow yourself.
It's a tricky drive anyways, that some of those drivers might prefer to do that.
Yeah, question. If you can't source any material for phase one locally, how many total trucks are you talking about over the duration of phase one? I mean, you ought to have a number, you know how many cubic yards of material you need, so what is that quantity? So give them an idea, how many trucks total you're talking during a 3-month period, 4-month period, what is that duration?
Mark, I can start and answer that. Get back to you. So essentially the amount of material that's been calculated to be needed overall is about 31,000 yards. But until we start getting out there and developing material that's in the 2-foot cap that's already on the repository, or the tailing spawn, it's not a repository yet. We're not going to know exactly how much of that material fits in each category that we need. And so and we may discover that there's more usable material than we thought, I'm hoping.
Okay.
We may discover there's less.
Which your 31,000 number is, none of that's usable?
It includes, that 31 is the total that's needed. So it doesn't include any subtraction for what's already out there. And then at this
maximum out there is 2 foot of many yards.
But is it all the right size?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you could use every bit of the cap, what would be left? I'm just asking ballpark ideas for these people to understand what could be as bad as X number of trucks, or could be as good as X, Y number of trucks. Because maybe we're all concerned about 5 trucks a day, or are we concerned about 100 trucks a day? What are we talking about magnitudes?
Yeah, I think for context, that's kind of the perspective I'm looking for. Talking about 1 big truck, 20 big truck, you know, just putting it into context. And I suspect tonight we will house folks.
would be looking for something, and how do I wrap my brain around the quantity?
And what size trucks? You guys, make cubic yards. I mean, what, it just depends on what type of truck.
Right, hand dump, side dump, bottom dump.
Probably end dumps, not sure exactly what they have, probably like 10 of those. What they probably run in.
Like,
Yeah, I've got a lot. Yeah, 10 of those. Yes, yeah.
Right now, you have a ballpark, 51,000 divided by 20 yards.
But again, some of that material is not gonna come through town. Some of it's gonna come from hopefully local sources, and so won't be such a disruption to people, and we just don't know what that quantity is. I mean, I think we're all have the collective like goal of minimizing trucks coming through town. So whatever we are possible, like whatever's possible to get in the district, we will do it.
Yeah, so my comment is just to see what happened.
What's your worst?
Right, what's your worst case and good case or an expected case, and you know, these are numbers people are gonna wanna know, they're gonna wanna know.
Sure.
What's it look like?
Well, there's no way nothing will be usable up there, but worst case, if nothing is usable, it's 1,500 trucks. You know, worst case, that's your absolute worst case for the season. And we're gonna be grading.
90-day season?
What's that?
90 days?
Maybe another month.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have more time. It's pretty melted out there. I don't know if you guys had a chance to drive up yet, except for the access road. Yeah.
Okay, so they're getting an understanding, it's gonna be on like up there, it's all about 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this gives them a comfort.
Yeah.
I think too, for constituents, they'll obviously, I mean, we know we're on the same page, we're all trying to minimize impacts, right? That's why you guys are here, and I really appreciate the number of people in this to our small little town that has this big, huge, ginormous project happening. But those are the kind of questions we get from shopkeepers and restaurant owners and neighbors of like, wow, I saw 2 trucks, like how long is it gonna last, and how many do you think are coming, and how much material, and what times of day, and so, you know, some of those best worst case examples.
Yeah, and I've just told you the worst. We don't really know what, like the best would be 0, right? But that's kind of useless because it probably won't be. We also have to bring in asphalt, right? So a couple of other things that need to come through.
I had a question kind of around air quality, and I know some of our county folks hear about this a lot from some of our residents about just kind of. You talk about air quality monitoring, dust control, and obviously we have recreational users that are out there that, you know, pick up dust. We got dust streets, but just kind of thinking about the health and welfare of our community. Really, what is that dust going to look like? We hear from people in the county who they, you know, they keep all their windows shut and they have dust furniture and everything. So just thinking about, again, if we're talking about an increase in volume to what we already experience recreationally, what does that look like for some of our county residents, and or what is the impact in town, right? Green streets, obviously, but just the dust is a concern.
Yeah, my question was going to be, what were those dust monitors like last year when you weren't using, when you guys weren't doing any work? Because we already have so much dust. I would imagine that they'll probably be negligible compared to what's already there, but.
Yeah, that's what we think too. So we only set up in the last couple of weeks of September and early October. So, you know, by then everything was pretty much calmed down. We actually only got 1 hit on our dust monitor from Louis grading the road right next to the monitor. So we didn't get a lot of actual data to report out, but we will have a couple of weeks before we start construction to get some data. And those are data that we can, you know, share as requested if you're interested. But going back to the, you know, adding pollution from the site, I think our goal is pretty much to keep it down to, if there's dust, especially if it's visible, we're bringing the water truck out.
Just to be clear, there's 2 water trucks that are going to be in the county. It's intended to be in the county. There'll be 1 on site with there, and then there'll be another one that the county will be using along with those. So that was, it's been heard loud and clear, and the EPA agreed to work with the county and purchase work with the county so they could purchase those roads in the county. And then the contractor will be making sure the site remains mitigated.
It's in our best interest as well for the workers, you know, obviously. So that's another, I think, common goal. Like, we don't want any issues for our workers, for the community as well. So Anthony, you said that the water truck that will be purchased through the cooperative agreement, do you have a timeline for that?
I haven't got the timeline right now. We're working for a couple of nuances. I imagine we have the money to come. We don't have it every time.
Okay. And if there are any dust complaints, like, please, again, let Anthony know, or Athena or I, and we'll definitely be sure that we know the location that it was noticed, and we'll definitely feed that back into this group and see what we can do.
Sure. We could, Athena, you might have said this already, but the dust, they're called dust tracks, the monitors that we're gonna install, that EPA will be doing separately from HDL, is 2 of them will be located on top of the repository. We're still kind of working out the exact location because we can use solar panels for them, but having power is a little bit better. And so one is going to be located near the ski shop, down
in the industrial park.
In the industrial park area, and then the other 2 are likely going to be on top of the repository, and we're still kind of working out power issues for that.
Yeah, last year they were shutting off because of all the clouds, and we had to go out and like hold them and charge them, but we actually have contractor support to keep those up and running throughout the season. And Byron's worked with these folks. You recognize the people in my picture?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really cool. You guys have had experience working together. The dust tracks may move up top to follow the work that's going on, because I think you guys are interested in this information as well. So they'll have access to it to make sure that they can use it to protect workers, in addition to keeping dust on site.
If I had to guess, the dust created by our recreational users on Route 2 is going to be much more detrimental to you guys than any dust created on the site. Usually these environmental remediation projects have really tight dust control protocols. Do you have extra budget for the county to be doing more to reduce dust on Route 2 for your workers' benefit? Because we do typically have a visible dust cloud, like during all dry times of year.
I'm looking at Anthony.
That's the county just drew down funds for a water truck that is going to be permanent for mitigating dust on.
Right, but even if the levels from what we would normally do aren't acceptable for their workers at their project, it needs to be done more. Is that supplemental dust control that we would then need to do to make it safe for them? Something that can be done.
Well, if it's a risk to the workers, then we have to, right? I mean,
so we have to meet monitoring standards for our workers, and obviously, if they're getting hits on their instruments, then something has to be mitigated. We have to stop work. We have to understand what the issue is, and then resolve it before they get back to work. So,
I just want to anticipate avoiding any type of negative financial impact on the town or the county as a result.
No, we understand completely, and I think, again, like, if it's a risk to our workers, then we have to figure out a way to manage it for it. I don't think you guys would be liable for that. But we're not speaking out.
A good consideration, though, if the dust coming off of the road would be unacceptable to folks working up.
I mean, I think we'll know in a couple of days whether something needs to be adjusted or not.
exactly, and I mean, I will say, we do have trucks that will be coming on the top, and especially near our entranceway or something like that, would be throwing dust there as well. Not just because we won't just say, oh, it's a public roadway, but take care of it. It would be our responsibility. It would be
But I have a question about like we'll kind of things perhaps a little bit. It's kind of we have a big conflict in terms of avoiding heck out time, but then also not seeing like 15 trucks coming through between 6 and 8 in the morning, something like that, and disturbing residents. We just voted as a community not to have OHVs in town, largely because of the noise issue that having that volume of like motorized vehicles coming through town creates from pretty much dawn to dusk. And so it would be a unfortunate step back. We did have a worst case scenario, and we did have 1,500 trucks coming through 6 days a week. 1,500 trucks total, 15 trucks a day, 6 days a week, something like that. But then made this feel just which fees. And so figuring out, I don't know if they do that, but I think that might be worth brainstorming with some of the folks here that have context around trying to manage the experience for the community as much as possible.
Okay. I think too, again, the fact that you guys are all sitting here getting a local perspective is huge, because that's what a lot of this is about, right? For you to know, hey, we got 2 to 3 trains that come in and drop 1,000 to 1,500 folks into town who are wandering across looking for food. We've got crazy mountain passes, right, that your guys are going to have to be going over. We've got, like you said, people that have this feeling from having had a lot of noise in town. So it kind of these local layers that we're adding on to what is already your challenging job. Okay. So just great.
The way I could see this playing out is as we have a little bit more information about what the drivers are willing to do, and also how much can be sourced outside of going through Green Street. We revisit, and then we let you know what the plan is. And if you get calls and complaints, we can make adjustments perhaps. I wish we had more solid information about, like, we're going to do 5 trucks on this day and schedule and all of that. But yeah, kind of back to your point about the worst case scenario, if nothing's usable out there, we don't really know what's under the surface, in terms of the size of the rock. There was a question you guys asked in the proposal phase.
I kind of test pits or anything out there. And I kind of have one question for you guys. What is better for you? It's a worst case scenario, 15 trucks a day. Like those trucks spread out over a 10-hour window, or do you want them jammed into a 5-hour window where I've got 3 trucks an hour going down Main Street, or I've got 1.5 trucks, 1 truck an hour down Main Street?
I mean, honestly, the least disturbance is probably afternoons. But I don't know, I think that would be a good brainstorm. And I think maybe it's also just a communication plan of being able to let us know a day in advance, like send the next lot if it's going to be a heavy truck day just to the community and say, hey guys, there's going to be 15 trucks today. I think that's up.
Well, when we talked before, we also understand the afternoon, but the idea was maybe that we have half and like between that 9 or the 9 and 10:30 window, half, 5 comes during the day. We realize the schedule. Those are contracting. Some people may think that that's not the best time, but the idea that we would come through and not waking people up and being down at 5 is something that we were tossing around. You said the afternoon, it seems 3 o'clock. Usually leave it out. After 3 o'clock, I think that people would get out before start getting into 7. When people are going home, and some people are, and often just kind of, it's usually a busy. Just guys, I don't know. It's really hard to judge until we start driving through town if they're really going to be loud and wake anybody up or not. We don't know what that sounds like.
Another question: have you talked to the CDOT as far as what their construction plans are? Because my understanding is that the project that may affect how the drivers would, they might want to get through before you know, start in the morning, you know, as opposed to waiting a half hour, you know. It's very, you know, getting constructed.
Which may push the area earlier.
Is that on mountain roads or is that?
Something
Do we know exactly I know they've been doing.
Just a few miles. Well, it depends if the baby's going fast, so that's like 15 miles out, not sure, but there is some construction right in town. There was no delays on that. That big delay was on the baby, but the baby's moving too fast.
Moving on that bridgeway, the area stretch, and they've been going. I don't think they've done it.
No, my understanding is we
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
You know, don't think they say.
SPA just presented to us and mentioned that there is some significant closures this summer on 515. Just north of your
Time to go, Howard, with that.
Yeah.
All the better for local sourcing.
Let's hope that works.
Well, and so for local sourcing, I can only think one gravel pit in the county, which is out that way. But it's like a one-man show. So, I mean, is there any way to operate off like, or can you're always looking for more employees? And I know it's really hard to find there, but if we can help supplement these employees, if we can make more local material, or is that an option? Or because I mean, pretty friendly with him, and he's always saying, you know, if he had more people, we could do more. But I just don't think you guys are going to get much from one guy.
Yeah, the question, what type of material are you sourcing?
It's a variety. It's going to be riprap for the chains, different size aggregates, road base for under the paved areas, some other clean rock for drainage layers on top of the layer. So it's a variety of different aggregates.
Mostly aggregate, though it's not filled like filled.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then to answer your question, what you're saying, I think he had out working with Rocky Mountain Aggregates to maybe move to augment his operation.
Okay, right.
I don't know if that's finalized yet, but they are talking.
Well, yeah, that'd be a lot faster. And yeah.
Yeah, it'd be better for everyone.
Yeah.
Get it locally.
Are you building an HTP line facility? Is that what's going on? And you have under layer, and then you'll have advanced layer and drainage.
Yeah, there's a variety of different layers.
That's in that fact sheet.
The details about the liner are not on the fact sheet, but the design analysis report is online. If you go to the design fact sheet, you can check out that. The drawings and the specs, they're all online. It's GCL, well, bedding with PCL, HDPE, and of course your leak detection layers and sumps.
I think too, using like as far as communication channels, you know, and updating the newspaper ones. How to get the words.
Well, and you meet with Jim Donovan using Nixel, I think is really helpful. You know, not everybody gets it, but everybody has friend that gets it, or you know,
or have the opportunity.
So that's a pretty good way to get the word out. Local events and happenings.
I don't know if this is possible, but would it be better if you had like more concentrated truck days? Like you get one day that has 30 trucks, which I don't know that you could receive that money. I don't know if that's possible, but like kind of balance it so it's not necessarily even. But you have some days that are heavier and some days that are lighter. Like does that help, I guess, or does it?
I have no idea.
Yeah, okay. That's probably too many to receive in one, because you got to have time to receive the material.
Right. The reality is that it's not going to be 7 5 trucks.
Yeah.
But again, you know, we have to find out exactly how much material we need, and then it's going to be from the trucks. And so there may be a period where we have more trucks coming through, and you might see near the tail end where we just need a few more trucks type of thing. So it's really gonna be a big, to get the repair on site. If we need to come through town, there could be a crunch where we do see more trucks.
How in advance can you let us know that so we can expect or convey that on? You bring in 45 trucks on Thursday.
No, I don't think it's gonna be anything like that.
Well, you gotta bring more. It's 10 to 20 a day. Maybe not 45. If you're gonna do that, how much in advance do we go off?
Good question.
Yeah, we're jotting it down and.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
I mean, do y'all think you can anticipate that a week ahead, or is it maybe more like a day or two?
Reality would probably be a couple of days.
Okay.
Worst case scenario.
Okay.
Best case scenario, we could give you more advance notice.
Okay. That's good to know for us, you know.
A lot of times on day, hey, can you get trucked out there? We need this to fill that material. So
I think if nothing else that would help them to understand that we're talking a construction project, and my background is mining and tailings facility, so building those things, it's not every day we get 10 trucks because you need a whole bunch of this one material, but now it's some plastic and we're not needing anything for a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden we need to do the next layer, which brings in a whole bunch of trucks. So it's going to be a huge cyclical project bringing back materials. And you're going to understand that's probably what it's going to be. It's not going to be every day 10 trucks. It's probably the ones you're talking about. Well, and that is the question we handle. How much we handle do you plan to do? And that there's its own huge part too.
I think too, to your point, was keeping the lines of communication open. I suspect you know, right. This is a varied community. You're going to have a whole wide variety. You're going to have 700 communities if you have 600 people, and so you know there are always going to be people who said, "Shut up, there's too many. We didn't know," and so just if we in these leadership positions, I think feel like we have open lines of communication, like resources. Getting as much notice as possible, then we know, like, you put it out, we let you know, we're doing as much of the due diligence as possible, even though, it's a tricky thing to manage in a small community with a lot of tourists.
And also, I mean, we desire to finish this in one season, in one thing, so that we're not back here next year trying to still be trucking. I mean, there will be, that's a different trucking that will happen where we're actually moving materials from the water treatment plant, the treatment generated solids, but that we can manage in a different way. That will have a little more flexibility, I think, on when to truck and
it's not coming directly.
No.
Yeah, that can bypass.
I got 2 things to comment on here. I think what I'm seeing going forward is it might be relevant for you all to know we have weekly touch points with these guys during the season and now. And then daily, reports of what's going on out there. So, like we're gonna know what's happening and be able to communicate with you all what's anticipated as soon as we know. And we're always asking. We already have so many questions for you all. So I just wanted you to know, weekly touch points that we have should be helpful to keep things open and go the other way as well. The monthly, well, I was gonna ask Shane a question real quick as well. Okay. Last time we were here, I believe the San Miguel Power construction was going to be discussed like the next day at a meeting. So I might want to just send you an email to kind of get a list of your, holidays that I don't already know about, which is probably a few. And then if you have any direct information on the San Miguel Power construction that's going on. I know
we took a slightly different approach this time. Before, they were really transparent about exactly what their schedule is going to be. That created a bunch of early local problems where people were like, "Oh, that definitely happened on these dates." And this time they just said there's going to be impacts this summer, and they'll most likely be around this time frame. They didn't give us the same level of detail because last time it did actually cost days.
Not like the Highway 50 website, which is pretty good.
But I think Gloria would have probably the best line of communication of finding out what the specific schedule is or requesting it to available.
I appreciate that. And then, yeah, I don't know if you were gonna get.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, obviously, we're trying to do proactive communication and open door, like all the time we're available, but then in addition, just because folks may not be, counting and really understanding what's going on at site, we're hoping to take everything that we get from these guys and turn it into kind of a monthly report that we can then give to you guys on like, this much material was hauled, this is what we salvaged, this is what we did this past month. Like, this is, just a snapshot of like where we are in the process so that you understand, and then, you can look forward and understand how far along we are, and what's going on, because you're just going to see a bunch of, people up there working and trucks coming through. And so to give you a little bit more of a complete picture of what's happening. And we're happy to do anything with press as well, like with the standard and, anything at all, just let us know. We're able to.
I think that working with us in PIO and so we could talk about having weekly touch points sometimes daily, but we can know some idea, maybe Saturday or Sunday working that looks like, and we can just blast it off. And with the caveat in each blast out, it's change. I think people check the news. They don't want to get it. Talk about we just blast. Do you think that we might be able to just get an idea at the end of 1 week what the next week looks like?
We definitely have a look ahead on.
Yeah, there's nobody that's again caveat the all times numbers or something change.
Yeah, we already do the look ahead or planning to, yeah.
I'm sure you're in some scenarios in the case of like a really awful weather summer where you have all sorts of delays. Is that something that also could potentially be toggled if this really just becomes overwhelming for the community? If like the level of impact feels untenable to the community, is even if the weather's great, is it a project that can be slowed down slightly in order to reduce the feel of the impact to the community?
Good question.
Maybe what I'd add is it comes down to money, right? Like the longer we take to do this project, the more it's going to cost. And right now we do have, we have a settlement, so we have a certain amount of money. We want to manage that the best we can because there's other projects we want to do at the site. There's other cleanup needs at the site, and so we want to manage that money as efficiently as possible. And so,
understood.
All things are possible. They just might have a dollar value to them, and so that's what we're trying to go for, is trying to get it done in one season. And that could be some uncomfortable truck days. And so kind of trying to figure out what that balance is of, is this okay for one summer, or do we drag it out? And there's a cost, there could be a cost to the community or, perceived cost of it taking longer, but there's the real cost of it just will cost longer if we drag this into 2 seasons. So,
I think people are trying to speed us up, not slow us down.
Well, I mean, we're not in we're hard to ruffle. So I think if you do hear from us saying like, hey, this is a lot, like it probably is.
It probably really is
crazy impact. So
yeah,
I don't expect that to happen, but I was curious.
We would take a lot of steps before we think about, possibly allowing this to go 2 seasons. You know what I mean? We'd come back to the table and get down to the heart of what's really wrong. And hopefully it wouldn't come to slowing things down, but I hear you. I hope it doesn't become untenable, but we'll try to find a solution before that point gets reached.
I mean, also we're running out of capacity, right? So we waste storage, so can't take forever to build it because we need space.
That's true. They keep coming up with more space up at Gladstone, but I think we've probably come up with the most space that we possibly can. I don't know. We're out, right? More or less.
Yeah, I would say the way we're generating sludge this year, we're in space. With higher flows.
Something else I'm curious about is how many people you need to house this summer for this project and how you're housing.
So we've reached out to all, the local contacts we could reach. We're gonna rent a house, have like 15 rooms secured at Gold Prospector, Kendall Mountain. We've reached out to some other hotels, but it didn't work with the busy schedule and some of the events. We're trying to stay locally as much as possible, and then we might have some overflow, 4 or 5 rooms.
Michigan will have several people inside as well. We're the prime contractor, so we're responsible for overall health and safety, quality controls, and all that. And
we're also trying to avoid, messing with the local hotels if we want to rent all the local tourists or looking for long-term rental too. But yeah, we'll just have people for long-term, and then some of us properties and occasionally, but yes.
I think I remember is somewhere in the 20 to 30 people range thing. We do hope to hire some locals, and we have them in the works, so there's several people coming forward with it. That number will be 20 to 30.
Yeah, during the peak time.
And the peak time being June to October.
Yeah, once we get started, we're gonna phase in, so it'll be kind of slow, 5 to 15 people at first, and then we'll have a period of maybe 3 months where.
Just one out of clarification. This is a repository. There's also another contract for OIS that's supposed to be awarded.
Couple of months.
Yeah, something like that. And I think, for that work, that's more periodically coming to town for sampling or something like that, not necessarily people stationed here.
Okay.
The one activity that will have some consistent presence is the drilling into the lake, the old former Lake Emma area. Sorry. And so that'll be I'm forgetting exactly the timeline, but at least it'll be maybe 2 to 3 contiguous months, and that's a handful of people though. And those will be Schnabel will be the oversight for that, and then the drilling contractor, the name's escaping me right now, but that would probably be maybe 6 people or something like that. And I know Schnabel, I think, was able to rent a house somewhere. And I'm not sure about the drillers exactly, but they'll have a presence, and it could be the drillers cycle out, like it could be a crew of 3 or 4 that then get replaced later. So those could be different individuals, but probably a handful of people that'll be here for 3 months on that one. Where the other things will be more periodic, like coming out to sample for a week or something like that. So,
yeah. Like, just to be clear, Joy, do you think the RIS, the RIS is not going to have that many people here like that?
I don't think so, except for, we have in the past used, utilized some local contractors for that. And while we've, because the prime contractor hasn't been selected, we don't exactly know what the relationships they'll have as subs in town. Conceivably, some of those would be, really good choices because they have site history already, and those folks already live here. Like folks from MSI have worked for the project before, and Alpine Water Resources who already maintain presence here and have housing. So, yeah, but other people, we're not expecting to have other people like move here for the summer or anything like that we're aware of anyway.
Do you have any specific concerns about the number of people, or
I'm curious, like schools having trouble finding housing for two new hires, but a lot of other businesses are looking for housing. So I was just, I assumed the number was north of 15. I was just curious how you're solving that.
And recognizing that certain folks' ability paid is variable, and so 20 EPA folks are coming in and contract percent that's potentially alternative. There's not really to be done about that.
You know, a lot of our restaurants are super quiet at dinner time, they're busy at lunch, and if there's 25 more people here who aren't longtime locals, they're more likely to be eating out.
I think you guys paid non-federal rate. For the rents and such.
Yeah, it's all negotiable, you know, as long as you don't hear.
Yeah, I got you.
One thing is certain, all our people working will want to eat.
Yeah, they definitely will be.
Yeah.
It's a good time to invest in the law.
Yeah. Well, the grocery store can get more business too than normal, you know, the typical tourist, right? Because sometimes you do get tired of eating out and you want to have some of your own food or make food. So that could be an interesting thing the grocery store might feel.
The hardware store will.
The sales tax.
Just, we check and see if there's any areas offering, that's just that map.
Oh,
I'm flipping it around. Is there anything that you can do to make the product more successful for your team? Are there things we can do to, in addition to communication?
Nobody asks us that.
I think communications.
Yeah, just open and honest and.
Maybe a little understanding. But no, I understand your concern.
Yeah. And identifying issues early on, you know, like, and you know, with the understanding that we're doing the best to manage it, but you know, the sooner we hear about something, the better we're able to respond to it. So, you know,
thank you, don't worry about this.
This is completely in a different direction, but it's something I've seen at other sites before. Don't be afraid to ask for identification from people if they say they're with the site or they're with this group or whatever. Like, we should be able to provide some kind of like ID or some kind of affiliation with the site if there's ever any question or doubt or anything like that. So, no problem.
I also wanted to say I really appreciate you all coming here pre-project to give us your input as well. I know it's, you know, an hour of your time that you've all come to talk with us, so it really helps when we know what you want in advance.
I think all of you coming here, it's a big group, right? There's a lot of folks involved, so you also having a presence here, meeting with the community tonight, hoping people come out and have a conversation so they can understand. It demonstrates your engagement.
There are worse places to visit.
And we really do want this project to go as smoothly as possible. You know, we recognize it's a big deal for the community, and just want it to be, you know, as much as we can do to make it smooth. We're committed to doing that.
So you're building this facility to store mainly the sludge coming from the current water treatment facility? Was it for anything else? Is that basically?
It can be for a lot of other things. For instance, I don't know if you're familiar with the 2019 interim record of decision, but we did a lot of basic work around 23 sites in the county. And a lot of those generated similar material from settling ponds. Those could be hauled also to the repository. It's like about this much though of the, you know.
And the anticipated life of this facility?
Cell 1, hopefully 5 years, and then the other cells are between 50 to 100, depending on what other waste we have to bring out of where it is. So, and then the capacity is a little bit over 300,000 yards. I think generation of the plant right now is, let's say, roughly 5,000 yards a year. So that's kind of how we're going. And I don't know if you've been present for some of the other conversations recently about.
I have just visiting for the day.
Oh, you're sitting the fire.
That's a lot of questions.
Well,
that's good.
We've yeah, it's good. We've recently had some you know, public sessions about a centralized treatment plant that would seriously, you know, up the sludge production, but we'd also be looking at ways to dewater it a little better to smush it down.
Because it's not filtered right now. Is it filtered?
It is filtered through a bag and then dried, but it's not dried with like a press or anything. So it's still 90% water by the time it goes for disposal. We can add.
No, I'd have to dive into the statistics and
Yeah.
reduction.
Yeah. Everyone manages the sludge at the water treatment plant, so.
We anticipated drying out such that it could become windborne.
Windborne, I don't think so. We amend it with quicklime, which kind of causes it to congeal a little bit better. And if you ever get it that dry, let us know. Yeah, we don't.
It's got a lot of polymers.
The polymers too. The things that cause the precipitate to come out of the water also help it to stay together when it's dry.
You make it hydroxides, basically, aren't hydroxides?
Mostly.
You're adding lime.
Yeah, and then other metals come along.
By weight, it's like 4 pounds zinc to 4 pounds iron, 1 pound zinc, and then trace metals.
So if we're encouraging folks to come tonight, you guys will just be sharing a little bit more, like an overview of what should we prep people, like you guys will be giving a presentation, is it just they'll be walking around the room, like how?
So first 15 minutes will be this presentation kind of that she gave, to give you a little bit more detail. And then the next 45 minutes is an open house. We have a bunch of posters back there, which I have to put up on easels. But they have pictures of like Gold King, like inside the corridor. We have some before and after pictures of work that we've already done. We've got some maps at the site. It's really like open house type, like science fair, you know, like walk around and see what you want to see. And when you're done, you can like.
And there'll be representatives from BLM, who I just saw Melissa poke her head in a little bit ago, and Mark is from CDPHE. So we're all, you know, available. Of course, there couldn't be here today, but we'll be available to answer questions if people just have general questions about the site. And this is really the idea that we expand it beyond just the work.
So I'm scary for anybody to be able to ask me any questions. So
yeah,
thanks for being here.
And we'll see if this format works. Like we could definitely, this is something we can do in the future, you know, for people like every summer if they want to do something. So we'll see. We'll see how tonight goes. We could get 3 people, we could get 30.
Yeah, and this will also be an area where we'd love to hear what you guys hear about it. You know, successful, or were they like, what were they doing? Or, you know, we want to get that feedback so we can improve our communications with the community. Because like we have really great lines of communication through Anthony and the groups that we meet with already. But there's probably people in the community that we don't, you know, we don't touch, we don't come in contact with. And so, you know, just trying to make sure that we're accessible to all people here as they want, you know, as they have questions and want to ask them.
Or beer and pizza you provide.
I was just going to say that. Like, yeah, provide food.
Maybe next time.
Have a whole town here.
Right.
Well, Austin is on the line. But,
should have brought the big thing of goldfish. I can go by as well, right? So for your kids.
So we have a 4:30. I don't know if there's any other questions right now, but if not, we're going to go ahead and move over. I know that you all will be here tonight. Don't need to join us at 4:30. Okay. Anyway. Thanks for your listening.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to go and ask any questions, please do, but we need to start working our way back. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, only 5 minutes to walk over there. Yeah, right.
Thanks. Yeah.
What's the job? It's been like a right.
No.
Yeah.